Welcome to Unplugged by Shape America. I'm your host, Stephanie Morris, and today I'm joined by Brian Creasman, who happens to be the Superintendent of the Year for the state of Kentucky. Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Brian is the superintendent in Fleming County Schools. So, Brian, first and foremost, to kick things off, please share with us, how are you? How is life in Fleming County Schools? How are you trying to deliver the best education possible and support your families and your students overall in this really incredibly challenging time?
Yeah, Stephanie, so back in March, we actually, the last day of traditional instruction here in Kentucky was actually the week of Shape America's Advocacy. So I got to Washington and then came straight down. And one of the things that I really stress to teachers and to students and to families was the way we are going to determine success in Fleming County is if we make sure that every one of our students, our teachers, and our parents got through this safe and healthy. And so far, everything has worked out really well. So right now, I would deem us a great success. It is just very, just like probably everywhere, it is just so unique that, you know, you go into places and no one's there, like your grocery stores, your gas stations, even the medical offices. It's just eerie about, you know, there's just no one moving. And, you know, we're coming up to Memorial Day, and it's just going to be, most people forgot that it was Memorial Day. I was watching news this morning and they completely forgot it was Memorial Day Monday, because it just seems like we've been frozen in time for so long. But I have to give a shout out to our teachers and our staff and our parents and community. They have been troopers in all of this, and also the class of 2020. They have really inspired a community. They've inspired a student body and also inspired a superintendent, just based on, you know, how fast they had to grow up, and they put others before themselves. And I think we've just came through this really well. I know we're not out of the woods, but you know, we've got some great things happening, you know, and it just proves that, you know, possibly that we've proven that high stakes testing isn't end all be all in education. So
Pretty brave point to make as a superintendent, but
yeah.
I really like it. Well said, Brian.
Yeah.
So as challenging a time as this is, I'm curious as to whether you see any positive outcomes coming out of it. And if you can share what you're taking away from this whole experience and how you see it shaping your leadership of Fleming County Schools. I know our audience would be really curious to hear that.
So one of the best things I think that has come out of this in education, Stephanie, is that we've shown that education can change, and we had to change overnight. Transformation usually takes 3 to 5 years. We did it in 3 to 5 days in most districts across the nation. We had to shut down, transform, get learning going in 3 to 5 days in a process typically no district has utilized that, and that's that remote learning. So I think that's a positive, that we can show that change can happen quick if we need to. I think it also validates that at the end of the day, that the social emotional piece of learning is so essential. Because at this point, you know, when we started, we were really just were concerned about, not about academic achievement, because you know, if you think back 2 months, you know, this was considered, you know, they were giving estimates 2 million people were going to die. So, you know, that's our focus. We were really focused on making sure that everyone was healthy and safe, but we haven't stopped doing that, Stephanie. We've still focused on what do students need to make sure that they have, you know, food, clothing, shelter, things like that. And I think that has really, it has moved SEL from a buzzword into something bigger. And I think that's so key. And the other thing, here's what's so positive. If you look at all the social media feeds through most districts in America, and they were posting what students were doing, if you notice what they were doing physical activity. They were playing, they were moving, they were engaging in health, fitness, and in most cases, teachers were encouraging it. So, we went from where PE and recess has been reduced by 40%, in some cases 50% since 2001. And guess what we did? We emphasized that for the past 2 months in most districts, that you need to be moving, you need to be exercising, you need to be focused on you. So I think that's a key takeaway, that when we get back to traditional, we've got to keep that momentum. We've got to keep saying, we've got to give students breaks for physical activity. And we were encouraging that during this remote learning so that they wouldn't, they wouldn't have mental breakdowns. They had to get away from those computers. They had to get away from the worksheets and just get outside and play, and just, be creative, get your mind off the coronavirus, and just be a kid. And so I think we've got to really, and we even saw, if you look, we even had teachers engaging and school administrators engaging in physical activity, because doctors told us underlying health conditions, health, or overall health, was critical to surviving this virus. So, that it put health, PE, recess in the forefront.
I love it. All messages I absolutely love to hear. And I'm sure our physical educators and our health educators are loving hearing these messages as well. So Brian, we had the great honor of having you as a special guest speaker at this year's Speak Out Day for Shape America. You shared some incredibly important messages with our community about the importance of advocacy at the school district level. I'm curious if you're willing to share what you felt you got out of it as a superintendent in terms of attending that event.
Yeah, so I would encourage, if every superintendent, if they can get a chance, to really attend one of the Advocacy Day. I went there in mid-March just to try to help, but I learned so much from PE teachers from across the nation, from you and from Jamie Sparks and all the other speakers and leaders, about not necessarily the importance, because we knew health and PE and recess and all of those things were important, but we didn't really realize how important it was to the social emotional, to student achievement. And you guys focused on that heavily, and about all the programs, the federal programs that we don't capitalize on. And for instance, I truly learned all the title funds, about how we should, as superintendents, should be utilizing those title funds to really emphasize those preventative things that we continue to see with students, the health and PE, recess, and we can utilize those title funds. And I think what you guys did really well was break that down for a school administrator to really see how, by taking that money, that negatively impacts a school or a school district, and all those positive things that we could have been using, to utilize those title funds to do something really big for kids. And sometimes we get lost in that. I came away saying, these title funds, and for the most part, we're utilizing them just to balance a budget, but we could be doing so much more. And then the other thing I learned was, when we were talking to legislators, and you guys set those meetings up, an all-day meeting with legislators who really impact the funding, federal funding. But we learned from them how, if you listen to what they were saying, they value that too. And they expect school districts to utilize that funding the way it was intended to be used. For instance, social emotional, PE, those kind of things. And everyone that I met with, they said, why, that was their best class. They had fun. And why are we taking that away from kids? And so they really, I learned that that's what they expect that to be used for. And then the other thing is those friendships, those networking opportunities with, you've got PE teachers of the year from all across America. Those are your top of the top educators, not just PE teachers, educators that are really passionate about what they do, even though they're very specialized. But hear them, those top educators, what they're doing in schools, programs that they've initiated, Stephanie, that not only helps students with health and PE, those educators will say, hey, I'm there helping them increase their achievement. I'm not just there about their making sure that they can play kickball. That's a big misunderstanding that I think a lot of educational leaders, Stephanie, have, that it's all about kickball or volleyball or whatever it is. And those educators, those teachers of the year in those states, they very passionate about their field. And so I was just very fortunate to be able to network and engage with them and learn so much from them, and so much about your organization that you lead and how you guys really impact education, that you are really trying to make education a holistic approach for the kids.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you again for being a special guest speaker at this year's Speak Out Day. I know you had a tremendous impact on those who had the chance to hear from you.
Yeah, the honor was mine, trust me.
Thank you. We are also thrilled that you will be a regular contributor to our Shape America blog in the very near future. Can you give us a little bit of insight about what you're excited to write about for our blog?
Yeah, I really want to use this opportunity to really talk to educational leaders, because educational leaders are those gatekeepers. With a stroke of a pen, they can ignite an idea or kill an idea or an initiative. So I really want to talk to educational leaders once or twice a month, strategies, concrete, practical strategies that, one, doesn't cost anything, but will have lasting impact on not just students, but your staffs and your teachers, and also your local communities, and giving them strategies, some ideas to think about, and some valid reasons, the research behind why we can really change education and make it holistic. What you guys are really trying to do, that's what you're advocates for, about that holistic approach to education and why we can do that, and resources, and then hopefully connect people across the nation with some of your great, Teacher of the Year educators that can help piece the puzzle together. And I think that's one of the things, other thing I really want to stress is, we've got to rely on people on the ground, in the field, doing the jobs. And especially those educators who are members of Shape America, you guys really empower them with research, information, and ways to advocate. Not just for the PE, the health, and the fitness, but really the holistic. So if we can connect that and really empower and give teachers those opportunities, and showing those leaders how to empower our teachers, just think what we can do.
So well said, as always. Thank you so much again, Brian, for being our guest on today's Unplugged by Shape America. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie.